B'Shem Hashem Na'aseh v'Natzliach, Shiur Torah, Bruchim Habayim. We're back here continuing our series of the Iggeret HaGra, the letter that the Gaon of Vilna, Alav Shalom, wrote to his family, to his wife, his mother, his children, and surely to us, where we are learning that even the mundane conversations of the tzaddikim are something that we can delve into and toil over and learn lots of Torah from. Tonight's shiur will be for a refuah shlema for Rabbanit Sarah bat Anat, Rabbi Ephraim ben Shulamit, Rabbanit Levana bat Sarah, Esther bat Malka, Moshiach ben Avigail ve'Avram, David ben Asriya, Doris bat Jora, Orit bat Ilana, Talia bat Sarah, Yitro ben Avraham, and also for a Atzlacha Rabba in Zivug Agun for Netanel Yosef ben Avraham and Reuven Chaim ben Pala Parel. Also for Atzlacha Rabba for Alex ben Noach and Refuah Shlema for Alex ben Noach, Joshua ben Noach, Elad ben Doris, Gabi ben Doris, Oshri ben Doris, David ben Esriya, Yitro ben Avraham, Shaul ben Farzane, Marsha bat Julie, Ayla bat Marsha, Samuel ben Marsha, Cephas ben Marsha, and Louis ben Marsha, and also Shaul ben Farzane. Kadosh Baruch Hu yivarech otam. And all of the wonderful people that continue to donate and support and help us in all the extraordinary ventures and for Kedusha that we're doing. So tonight's shiur is going to be a softer shiur in a sense that we're not going to talk very much about reward and punishment like we have in the last couple of shiurim in this particular series, but rather a issue of really emunah, bitachon. Where does it really stand? What is the where's the line, if you will? Where's the line that we need to get to? Where's the line? Can we cross it and go beyond it? And this is one of the things that the Gaon of Vilna will is telling his wife and family in these next couple of lines, where we see that here the Gaon of Vilna is utilizing a time to teach us what does it really mean to have emunah in Hashem. Now the letter continues and says the following: "V'tekabdeni et Shabbat meod, kasher haya lefanai, ve'al tetzamtzemi klal. Kol mezonotav shel adam kvutzim lo mirosh hashana ad yom hakippurim, chutz meotzaat Shabbatot veotzaat yom tov." This is in essence the section we're going to go over today, where the translation is that after the Gaon of Vilna told us last week about the whole mitzvah of Oneg Shabbat, how you're, it's not just about not driving on Shabbat or watching television on Shabbat or working and things of that nature, where you have to have Oneg Shabbat, have special food and special clothing and have a very special day altogether where it's like it's more than Yom Tov. Shabbat is considered more holy than any of the other holidays, including Yom Kippur. That's what the Gemara says. So here, the Gaon of Vilna is now going to the next part, and he's telling his wife the following: "Continue to give great honor to the Shabbat, as was done when I was there, and do not cut down your Shabbat expenses at all, since man's entire sustenance of the year is fixed for him from Rosh Hashanah to Yom Kippur, excluding the expenditures for Shabbat and festivals and mitzvot." Here the Gaon of Vilna is using a source from the Gemara Masechet Beitzah, page 16a and also 15b, where he's telling his wife that you have to give honor to the Shabbat, and to the extent of don't cut even expenses. Don't cut the expenses, because all of the expenses of Shabbat, of the Yom Tov, of the mitzvot, it's not considered as part of your income that was decreed on Rosh Hashanah. That's extra. That's extra. Now, why does the Gaon of Vilna feel the need to tell his wife in the first place? I mean, she's a tzedakah. She's not some secular person or some brand new to the religion person. She's a tzedakah. Why is he telling her this? this is in essence teaching us a lesson as well, where sometimes you'll have your Shabbat, you'll have a wonderful Shabbat that you're celebrating. You have nice food, you have a nice atmosphere, the table's set up in a nice way, everyone is looking good, and Baruch Hashem. But then you hear that the rabbi is coming to town, and he's coming and he's going to be hosted at your house, or a different special guest is coming to your house. Your parents are coming to town, and they're going to spend Shabbat at your house, or your in-laws, or somebody special is coming, to your house. For some people, their in-laws are not so special, but nonetheless, they have to make sure that they have a very special Shabbat for them. Now, what happens then? All of a sudden, the Shabbat changes. All of a sudden, the Shabbat changes. Why? Shabbat is always special. But now that I know that the parents are coming, or the rabbi is coming, or some important dignitary is coming, oh, no. That's a different situation. Now, it's not just the standard Shulchan Shabbat, the table of Shabbat. Now we put even more decorations, and we put a nicer piece on the table, and we take out the special tools that we use only on unique occasions, and the special china plates that cost thousands of dollars that we only use on these special occasions. And we're going to wear not the regular Shabbat clothes, we're going to wear something even more special than what I wore for the wedding and what you wore for this, and everybody takes it up a notch. This is a mistake. Why is it a mistake? Because what the Gaon of Vilna is telling us here is that don't change the Shabbat. Don't change the Shabbat that we were celebrating when I was there, and we had Oneg Shabbat, we had celebration of Shabbat. Shabbat was, in essence, what our whole week got strength from was the Shabbat. All the wonderful food, all the wonderful things that we did on Shabbat, don't change it once I left. Why? Because then it's going to look like that special Shabbat that we had was really not for the honor of Shabbat, but rather for my honor. The father, the husband, the big rabbi is for me. Don't make that mistake. Every single Shabbat should be the best Shabbat you ever had, the most glorious Shabbat you could possibly afford, the best possible thing you can have. And if you're going to change the Shabbat because of somebody else that's coming to visit you, that means you're not honoring the Shabbat, you're honoring the person, and that's a very serious mistake. And that's a very serious mistake that the Gaon of Vilna is warning even his tzaddiket wife. Tell her that don't change this honor. Continue to give great honor to the Shabbat. And he's urging his family to demonstrate this honor for Shabbat even when he's not there, because the whole honor that we were giving the Shabbat when I was there, he's telling them, was not for me, was not because I told you to do it, was not because I'm a big rabbi, but rather because it was the Shabbat. It was the Shabbat queen coming. That in itself deserves honor. The Gemara says, extraordinary story in Masechet Shabbat, in page 119a, where you see some of the Chachamim, how they honored Shabbat. So first, the Gemara says that Rabbi Hanina would wrap himself in finery and stand towards the evening on Friday night, and say, Bo v'nitzet likrat Shabbat HaMalka. He would say, come, let us go and greet the Shabbat queen. He would go outside and say, come Shabbat, come Shabbat. And his Talmidim and his family would come with him. Rabbi Yanai, on the other hand, would put on his Shabbat clothes on Friday and say, Boi kala, come Shabbat queen, come to my house. They would mamash welcome the Shabbat into their home. Rabbi bar Rav Huna visited the home of Rabbi bar Rav Nachman, two major sages that are mentioned practically in every other page in the Gemara. So one of the sages, Rabbi bar Huna, went to visit another, Rabbi bar Nachman. And as soon as he got there, they brought before him 3 se'ah of oiled wafers. This was a very, very expensive pastry type of food, and they brought him as soon as he got there, and it was an enormous amount. Enormous amount, very, very expensive. So Rabbi Baruna said to him, to the family, wow, did you know that I was coming? How did you guys know that I'm coming? Okay, he's a big rabbi and so on, but I mean, to prepare such a delicacy, so expensive, such a big investment, I mean, usually this is something that you do on special occasions. The sages were not liars, Rabotai. The sages told the emet at all times. And what was the response? What was the response to this big tzaddik? They said to him, are you any more important than Shabbat? Meaning that these pastries were not prepared for you. We had this for the honor of Shabbat. You just happened to come here, so you benefit too. So we see from here, Rabotai, that the sages honored the Shabbat in such an extraordinary fashion that it wasn't that they were eating the cake, this special cake on Shabbat, because they like to eat cake. And they enjoy the cake. And they have a chulent because they like chulent. No. That's the mistake that a lot of people make, where they think that they're going to have all of these special foods because they like this food. And that's not exactly what the Gaon of Vilna is telling us. What the Gaon of Vilna is saying, and he's actually commenting on the book of Isaiah, chapter 1, verse 13, that in order to proclaim the Shabbat a delight, the karat the Shabbat oneg, a person has to have the intent that everything that they're doing is for the honor of Shabbat and not for their own enjoyment. Even though you're enjoying it, you're enjoying the chulent, and you're enjoying the nice atmosphere, you're enjoying wearing a brand new suit and a brand new dress and whatever it is, you're enjoying it, sure. But it's not because you're enjoying it that you're doing it. You're doing it for the honor of the Shabbat queen. Imagine you had not just a dignitary from your local government or your local synagogue or community come to you, but the queen of the world coming, a Kadosh Baruch Hu's daughter's coming. What are you going to do? You're going to wear all these nice things, not because you like the suit that you're wearing. Now you're not going to make all this special food because you like the food. You may not even have a chance to eat the food with all the nerves that are going through your system. But needless to say, you're going to do all of this in the honor of the queen. This is what is expected of each and every single one of us every week. Every week. Now, who is this Gaon of Vilna? Was Gaon of Vilna a very rich person? Was he someone that had millions and millions of dollars because he was a famous Rav across the entire planet? Was that the case? Opposite. The Gaon of Vilna, Rabotai Yekarim, was extraordinarily poor. So poor that one time his wife comes to the Gaon and asks him, what should I feed the children? There's no food. What should I feed them? The children need to eat. Maybe the adults can perhaps not eat as much, even fast for a few days if necessary because of the poverty. But what can I feed the kids? So the Gaon answers his wife as follows. He says, listen, surely our kids have some friends. Tell our kids to go to different, visit different friends every day that they have around the time of lunch. Perhaps maybe they'll be invited so they can eat lunch at their houses. That's how poor the Gaon of Vilna and his family were. So now on that end, you're saying, wait a minute, he's extraordinarily poor to the point where he has to send his kids to different houses hoping that maybe somebody's going to feed them. On the other hand, you're saying, don't cut out any expenses for Shabbat. Don't cut out any expenses for Shabbat, and make sure that you are going to do everything that you did when I was there. Now, how do the two add up? How do the two add up? On one hand, you don't have food to eat sometimes during the week. On the other hand, you're telling your wife, listen, all of the money for Shabbat and everything, that spend, splurge, and even borrow. Borrow. Yes, borrow. Why? Because the Gaon of Vilna is saying as follows. He says, because all of man's entire sustenance for the year is fixed for him on Rosh Hashanah, and decided until Yom Kippur, meaning that all of the money that you're going to get and all of the money that you're going to have to spend is already decided on Rosh Hashanah until the end of that year, until Yom Kippur. And all of the expenses and all of the income. How you're going to receive that money, that the Mishnah says is decided day by day, based on your actions. But how much you're going to get is already decided on Rosh Hashanah. But that amount of money that HaKadosh Baruch Hu decides that you're going to get does not include the money that you're going to spend for the sake of Shabbat, for the sake of Yom Tov, the holidays, or for the sake of all of the other mitzvot, to buy books that you're going to learn from, not just that are going to collect dust in your shelves. If you're going to learn them, then it's a mitzvah, even more so. Not for the tzedakah that you're going to give. That's not part of your income. Yeah, but what if I give the tzedakah, I'm going to have less money? Not necessarily. Your income was decided. Let's say Hashem decided you're going to make $100,000, and your expenses were decided you're going to have expenses of $50,000. So meaning leaving you $50,000 left. Now, if you give maaser appropriately, which is 10% of your income, 10% of $100,000, that means that technically speaking, you're supposed to have what left? $40,000 left. Why? Because you gave $10,000 out of $100,000. That leaves you $90,000, and you had expenses of $50,000, $40,000. That's not how it works. HaKadosh Baruch Hu, in essence, is telling us that if your income was decided to be $100,000 and your expenses were decided to be $50,000, a couple of different options become possible. One, he could use that $10,000 that you spent as part of the expenses that were already decreed on you, meaning you'll be left with the same amount whether you spend it on bills or you spend it on tzedakah. Or better yet, he could increase your income from some other source you didn't expect. You could win the money, you can get a raise, you can inherit the money, and countless other ways that HaKadosh Baruch Hu can decide to give you the money. Now here, Rabotai Yekarim, is what the Gaon of Vilna is telling us, that in order for us to be kosher Jews, we have to have emunah. But not just emunah that is, listen, I believe that Hashem is going to rescue me if I get in trouble. No, not emunah out of desperation. A lot of people have emunah out of desperation, meaning they tried whatever they can. They're hopeless. They have no other option. There's no way that they could pay the bills. There's no way that they could get to the appointment on time. There's no way that they can cure themselves. They have pretty much no choice. So they say, oh no, I believe in Hashem, He's going to help me. That's not real emunah. That's emunah out of desperation. In reality, it's non-existent. That's just simply you're desperate. So you say that after you've tried everything, you believe in Hashem is going to help you anyway. It's not exactly the emunah that we're talking about here. The emunah that we're supposed to talk about is emunah that comes standard. Before you know what circumstances, before you try any effort, simply the type of emunah that you have in your day-to-day life, and the type of emunah that you dictates your actions. Dictates your actions. So it's not coming out of desperation, but rather it's coming naturally to you. Now, of course, to get to that point takes work. But nonetheless, what the Gaon of Vilna is telling us here, that you have to already work on your emunah as soon as the week starts, in your preparation for Shabbat. In your preparation for Shabbat. How would the sages do the same thing? So the same Gemara says the following. Some of the sages were wealthy, some of the sages were poor. But needless to say, all of the sages celebrated the Shabbat in very, very extraordinary ways. The Gemara continues here and says that Rab Abba would buy meat from 13 different butchers for 13 common astiras, and deliver it to the pivot of his door, to his kitchen staff. And he would say to them, be energetic and hurry. Why? Before the meat, more meat's going to arrive. Every week he would buy different type of meat from different places. Oh, why different places? He has the best veal. He has the best this. He has the best that. He has the best lamb. He has the best such and such. So you went to different butchers. This guy's an expert in this guy's an expert in that, so I only want what you're the best at. Why? That's what my queen deserves. What queen? What queen? Shabbat queen. The Shabbat queen deserves the best. So you'd literally go and spend. This is a chacham. This is not like somebody that's just a fat person that likes to eat. This is a chacham that can learn an enormous amount of Torah in that kind of time. But instead, he would go himself to different butchers to get the best they possibly have and make sure that it gets to his chefs as quickly as possible so he can already cook it, but also so there's enough time to cook the other meat that's coming. Then the Gemara says that the Chachamim would already prepare for Shabbat on Motzei Shabbat. And it says about Shammai. Shammai, we hear a lot of things from him. There's Bet Shammai, there's Bet Hillel. And here the Gemara says that Shammai would already start preparing for Shabbat at the beginning of the week. Soon he would go to the market and he would see, oh, this is a very nice piece of meat for Shabbat. This is a nice cow for Shabbat. Let me get it. Gets the meat, but it's only Sunday, only first day of the week. The week continues. He has to go back to the shuk. He has to go back to the market. Goes back to the market for something else. Oh, lo and behold, you see, wow, look at that. This meat is better than what I have. The meat that I got on Sunday is good. It was the best they had. But right now, this piece of meat is much better than I have. So you know what? I'm going to get this one for Shabbat. And the one that I have, I'll eat it beforehand. I'll eat it on a different day, not Shabbat. And this is how the Chachamim would prepare the whole week for Shabbat. So much so, Rabotai, that their entire lives during the week operated based on their emunah in HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Not based on, oh, this one was wealthy, this one was more wealthy, and that's why they were able to do it. Some of these tzaddikim were extraordinarily poor, like the Gaon of Vilna himself. But yet, the way they implemented all of the Torah that they learned was with their emunah and bitachon in Hashem. And one of the steps was not just during desperate times where they had to believe in Hashem because this was the obvious choice, but rather during times that was just simple day-to-day activities. Now, this whole thing is based on a Gemara. The Gemara that the Gaon of Vilna is mentioning is the Gemara in Masechet Beitzah. And the Gemara in Masechet Beitzah tells us that in 16a, it tells us that HaKadosh Baruch Hu already decides whatever parnasah you're going to get is not going to be, whatever I'm going to give you is not going to include the money that you end up spending because you have emunah in me. Now, if you go a little bit earlier than that, you go a little bit earlier in the page, you go to 15b, you're going to find something very interesting. On the bottom of the page, mamash at the end of the page of 15b, says the following, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu אמר להם הקדוש ברוך הוא לישראל, בניי, לבו עליי, וקדשו קדושת היום, והאמינו בי, ואני פורע. Translation, the Holy One, blessed is He, says to the Jewish people, my sons, borrow on my account, and properly sanctify the holiness of the day, meaning the Shabbat, or the Yom Tov, and have emunah in me, and I will repay your loans. Here we see a supernatural promise from HaKadosh Baruch Hu, telling us, Rabotai, that if a person does not have the means to have a beautiful Shabbat, have a Shabbat that's extraordinary, that's beautiful, that's special, that's not like every other day. They're not just eating microwave soup that they bought at the 99-cent store. No, they don't have the money for the nice piece of meat. They don't have the money for nice, beautiful candelabra for their Shabbat candles. They don't have the money for nice piece to put on top of the table. Different, no, they don't have the money for it. HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, If you're doing it because you like the way that the candelabra looks, if you're doing it because your belly says, I like steak, if you're doing it because you're trying to impress your boss or your in-laws that are coming over, then you're on your own. You can buy, you cannot buy, that's you. But if you're doing it to sanctify my name, to sanctify the day that I call Shabbat, you can even go and borrow the money. Go and borrow the money, I'll pay back your loan. Go and borrow the money. If you don't have it, go and borrow the money, and I'll pay back the loan, HaKadosh Baruch Hu says. Now some people are going to say, oh wow, that's a nice midrash, that's a nice story, but it's not really obligation to live like this. It's not really, you don't have to. Wrong. First of all, see, this is inside the Gemara. It's not just some fairy tale book. Number two, this was paskin to halacha. This supernatural statement was paskin to halacha. In the Mishnah Berurah, in Seif 242, Siman 4, he writes that concerning the Shabbat and Yom Tov, Chazal says that if a person increases his expenditures for them, his yearly allotment as decreed on Rosh Hashanah will increase accordingly. See here, the Mishnah Berurah, the Chafetz Chaim, tells us this supernatural, this mystical promise is halacha. Just like it's a rule of the world to have a certain amount of oxygen, a certain amount of gravity, a certain amount of different things that are in the world, this promise is also what part of the klalim, of the nature of the world. For those who believe it. If a person doesn't believe it, in reality she's only buying the nice candelabra, or she's buying the nice piece of meat, or all the different things because she likes it, because she wants to impress people. No, there's no promise. You're going to be in debt. You may end up having to declare bankruptcy at some point, because you're not doing it for Shabbat. But if you're doing it for the sanctification of HaKadosh Baruch Hu's name, for the honor of his Shabbat, 100% HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, you don't have it, I'll pay back the loan. You go borrow, I'll pay back the loan. So here we see that unlike what some may want to believe, that everything that's in the Torah has to be rational, has to make sense, it's not necessarily true. Not necessarily true. In fact, it's not even close to true. If you look at the 5 books of Moses or the Tanakh itself, it's full of miracles, it's full of mystical, it's full of supernatural. To have a nation surround the Chomah, the wall of their enemy 7 times, and that's going to make it collapse like Yoshua ben Nun did with the army of Am Yisrael, is that natural? You ever see, George Bush or Clinton or any of the other people out there go to war and decide, you know what, we're not going to use planes, we're not going to use bombs, we're going to just walk around the Afghanistanis and the Iraqis, we're going to walk around them and that's going to destroy them. You ever see that? You ever see the Zionist government in Israel? Instead of shooting the missiles that cost $100,000 a clip, against the $500 missiles that the Palestinians are shooting at them, say, you know what, we're not going to use the Iron Dome. We know what we're going to do. We're going to walk around. We're going to walk around the neighborhood, and that's going to make it stop? No. Why? It's emunah. It's emunah in the supernatural. You have to have emunah in the supernatural. So here we see, Tanakh is full of this type of supernatural things, but it's not just the stories, but also some of the actual halachas, some of the laws in Judaism require a person to believe in the supernatural. Because if everything makes sense to you, it cannot be divine. It cannot be divine. It cannot be, because HaKadosh Baruch Hu doesn't think like us. But again, a lot of things make sense. A lot of things, add up to anyone that delves into it and toils into it. But we don't do it because it makes sense. We do it because HaKadosh Baruch Hu said so. So here HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, this is not a suggestion. that you could take or not take. This, Rabotai, is an obligation. When a person is scared to spend money to honor the Shabbat, scared to spend money to sanctify the mitzvot, scared to give tzedakah, scared because she's not sure she's going to have enough money to do X, Y, Z. They're scared to do it. What in essence are they saying? Number one, they're saying that they don't have emunah in Hashem. Or they say, no, I have emunah. Okay, so how come not this? Oh, maybe because you think this is a suggestion and not an obligation. And that's unfortunately sometimes people have this mentality. And the Gemara in Masechet Sotah, page 48b, says, in the name of Rabbi Eliezer ben Holkinus, where he says to us that if a person has a piece of bread to eat today, but he's already concerned about what is he going to eat tomorrow, this is a person that has baby emunah. He has katon me'emunah. He has baby emunah, like almost virtually non-existent. He believes that the Creator put him in the world and not some explosion. But nonetheless, as far as real divine providence, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu cares exactly how much you have in your pocket and how the bread tastes and what kind of job you're going to work at and who you're going to marry and whether you'll have kids and how the kids are going to do in school and so on and so forth, all those things, you don't think that's up to Hashem. You think that's maybe luck, maybe your efforts, maybe this, maybe that. He doesn't really believe in true Ashgacha Pratit. And that, Rabotai, is apikolsut. It's heresy. To not believe in Ashgacha Pratit, in divine providence, is 100% heresy. Unfortunately, there was a statistic that came out a few years ago, maybe 4 years ago or so, by a research house that I mentioned to you in the past. It said that there is over 45%, I think it was 45 or 48% of modern Orthodox Jews that were involved in this research openly admitted not to believe in divine providence. Now, of course, these poor people have not been educated the right way, and you really can't even blame them so much as you do the teachers. Why? Because many times the strategy of the modern orthodoxy today is to make sense of everything. And when everything has to make sense, you end up having a different Torah. A Torah that doesn't have Ashgacha Pratit, doesn't have divine providence, doesn't have anything supernatural. Everything has to make sense, and they'll even try to make sense out of the splitting of the Sea of Reeds, where they say, no, there was a strong wind, and just like I saw on Discovery Channel, and it split at the right time, that Am Yisrael was there, and literally they'll try to explain the supernatural in a natural way, destroying the Torah in the process. This, Rabotai, is a very miserable way to live. It's a very miserable way to live. Why? Because if everything has to make sense to you, as soon as things don't make sense to you, the Torah goes in the garbage. Torah goes in the garbage. And that's why many times these types of people, as soon as they have very big tests in their life, they don't utilize the Torah to get them out of that test, to instruct them how to deal with it. They'll utilize whatever makes common sense to them. So if common sense will come from a friend they met at some idol-worshipping Freemasons meeting, they'll take the advice from him. If their sense comes from Oprah Winfrey that they watched on television, they'll take the advice from them. If their new idea comes from some Christian church that believes God is a human being, they'll take the advice from them. They're not going to utilize the Torah. Why? Because the Torah doesn't always make sense, and in their mind, everything needs to make sense. And this is apikolsut. This is not like, oh, it's not a big deal, he's not at that level. No, it's actually a really big deal. We have an entire series called Bitachon Be'Hashem. I think it's almost 20 lectures. It's an extraordinary series about emunah and bitachon, especially based on the Bet Alevi. Rav Soloveitchik alav shalom, one of the Gdolei Ador in his time, a couple of 100 years ago, he has a little kuntres that came out of the entire sefer that he has that was talking about bitachon. And this several-page kuntres has so much in it, sources from the Torah, of how much we are supposed to believe in HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that when a person understands what is really require of them, and then they measure it against what they're actually doing, surely we all need to do tshuva. So much so that the Bet Levi says that we have verses in the Torah, we have verses in the Tanakh, like the book of Job or the book of Jeremiah, that says that when you worry about certain problems that haven't happened yet, you are bringing those problems on yourself. Why? That is the measure for measure punishment for not having emunah in Hashem. You don't believe in Hashem that He's going to give you enough money so you can move to Eretz Yisrael. You don't believe in Hashem that He's going to give you the right zivug so you settle with whoever you meet. You don't believe in Hashem that He's going to give you the right job so you end up working on Shabbat. You don't believe in Hashem that you're going to be healthy so you end up eating all types of food that perhaps is not even kosher. What does the Kadosh Baruch Hu do? The very same things that you're worried about, He brings to your life. That's the measure for measure punishment. Hashem Yishmor V'Yatzil. That's what the Bet Levi says. That's what the Bet Levi says, meaning that anxiety is not only not good for your health physically, anxiety is not good for your neshama or literally your life. Literally your life. Anxiety actually creates problems, i.e., lack of emunah and bitachon creates the problem. So here the Gaon of Vilna is telling us, you have to have emunah in Hashem even if you don't even know what you're going to eat during the week, because Shabbat is excluded. Holidays excluded. Mitzvahs excluded. Torah excluded from the natural that you are used to throughout the entire week. When it comes time to spending money on doing mitzvot, on doing kiruv, on learning Torah, on Shabbat, on holiday, all of those things, when it comes time to that, don't think in a natural, rational way, because you'll end up becoming a kofel. You'll end up becoming a heretic. You'll end up becoming someone that you don't want to be. And this, Rabotai, if we could all just apply that to our life, we would all be better for it. But this is why the Gemara says here that HaKadosh Baruch Hu gives us a supernatural promise, that if you are at a status that you really do not have emunah, you don't have the emunah to go and splurge on a better piece of meat. You don't have the emunah to splurge on getting a better quality challah. You don't have the emunah to do the extra things for Shabbat. HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, listen, my dear son, my dear daughter, go and borrow the money and I'll pay it back. I will pay it back. This is not a promise that a human being can make, meaning that if somebody follows everything to the T and it doesn't work, we have a problem. But HaKadosh Baruch Hu makes such statements because He can. And when a person truly believes what HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, he sees the supernatural in front of their eyes. Now, the interesting part that comes after is that comes where it talks about that Parnassah is decided on Shabbat, on Rosh Hashanah, and so on. Who says it? Who says this whole very famous statement that's mentioned in Gemara Masechet Beitzah, in Masechet Rosh Hashanah, and several other places? Who says it? It says it here, Rav Tachlifa, the brother of Rav Nai Chotzah, taught the following Baraita: all of a person's income is fixed each year from Rosh Hashanah until Yom Kippur, with the exception of expenditures for the Shabbat and the festivals, and the expenditures for teaching one's child Torah. For in regards to these expenditures, if one spends less, he receives less parnasa from Shamayim. And if one spends more, he receives more. Thus, the expenditures made for these mitzvot do not actually diminish a person's total income. This is a Gemara Mefureshet. This is a literal Gemara of what it says here. Now, why did I ask you who says it? Why? Usually, it doesn't really make much of a difference of who says what in our shulim. We don't delve into things that deeply as far as who says it all. But here, it's an extraordinary thing. Here I saw Chidush, Mamash, golden. Here it says Rav Tachlifa, the brother of Rav Nai Chotzah. Why do I care if Rav Tachlifa has a brother that's named Ravnai? Usually, if you say, Rav Avraham ben the Rambam, okay, I know why you're mentioning Rav Avraham ben the Rambam, because the fact that his father is the Rambam is a big deal. It's a very, very big deal. I know that whatever he says, I can rely on these words. Yes, the rabbi that he had was Gdolado. If you're telling me this is such and such, the son of Rabbi Akiva, oh, okay, fine, no problem. If you say this is such and such, the son of Rabbi Ishmael, oh, okay, no problem. These are giants. But it's not normal, for the Gemara at least, to mention this is such and such, the brother of a non-rabbi. Somebody named Ravnai. Like if you said he's the brother of Rabbi Akiva, of Rabbi Meir Baranes, of somebody like that's the famous rabbi too, then it would be, I could say, it's similar to saying he's the son of a big rabbi, so yeah, he's the brother of another big rabbi. Okay, I understand. It's good to know that he maybe learned together with him, the chavruta, fine. But here it's not. Here it says Rav Tachlifa, he was the brother of Ravnai. Pele Plaim, it's a wonder of wonders here. Why do I need to know his brother? Rashi on the place says, that's because, Rabotai, Rav Tachlifa, he's telling us a Mishnah, he's telling us a Gemara that teaches us about Parnasah. He's telling us about sustenance, that you shouldn't be worried about money spent for mitzvot and so on and so forth. Was he rich? No. Why? Because he was the brother of Ravnai. Ravnai had a deal with them of Issachar and Zvulun. Ravnai, he is the one that gave him whatever money he needed in order to live his life. While he learned Torah, Ravnai went to work, and they split the profits. They split the mitzvot, and they split the money, just like Issachar and Zvulun, the 12 tribes. So he's telling you whatever I need to spend on Shabbat. I'm not thinking about how much did my brother make this week. Is he going to make this deal? Is he not going to make this deal? No. I'm going to spend for Shabbat because I know that me spending on Shabbat literally is a supernatural mitzvah that can influence and impact the business of my brother, not even my own business, the business of my brother. Why? Because my brother is my partner in Torah. My brother is my partner in Torah. He invests in Torah. HaKadosh Baruch Hu will give him more because I decided that I need to sanctify this Shabbat even more. Now, of course, if Ravnai himself spends more on Shabbat, Hashem will give him more money because of it. If Ravnai gives more tzedakah, surely Hashem will give him more. But that's his own test. Here, Rav Tachlifa says something amazing. He's saying, Rabotai, listen, it's not just the guy that has the money can test himself and say, you know what, I make $100,000, but I want to give $20,000 in tzedakah. I want to give chomesh, but I also need X amount of money, and if I give that chomesh, I may not make ends meet. With this amount of tzedakah. But HaKadosh Baruch Hu says that if I give it, he'll give me the money back. Okay, I'm going to try it. I'm going to give it a try. That's Chazaku Baruch. Praiseworthy is the person that passes such a test. But here Rav Tachlifa gives us an additional supernatural chidush. He says, no, it's not just that. It's not just if you test things on your own dime, on your own blood, that can impact yourself. If you are a Torah investor, you invest into Kiruv, you invest into Kolel, you invest into tzedakah, you invest into things that sanctify Kadosh Baruch Hu's name, you now become a partner with Hashem. Which means not only does he give you more based on your investment, he now also gives you more based on what the recipient does with your money. Meaning, if that recipient is a tzaddik or a tzaddikah, and they use this money that you give them to sanctify the Shabbat, they use this money to do more kiruv, they use this money to learn more Torah, they use this money to honor Shabbat, they are doing it even more so. And they need more now because Obviously, to have a nicer Shabbat requires more money. To have more kiruv requires more money. To do more yeshivot, more kolas requires more money. Because they need more, you will get more. Because you are the partner. Rabotai, if you could understand this and live with this, you literally start understanding how supernatural our day-to-day life is when we believe in Hashem 100%. Now, here we see something unusual, where now that he told us about Parnassah, he told us about how we could rely on HaKadosh Baruch Hu to pay for our mitzvot, we see something unusual. We see that in the beginning, it says that HaKadosh Baruch Hu says to the people, my sons, borrow on my account to properly sanctify the holiness of the day, and have emunah in me, have trust in me, and I'll repay your loans. But if you look at this specific saying in the Zohar, in Parashat Ekev, page 273a, or you look at the Psikta Zutrita in Parashat Bo, Siman 16, or you look at the Midrash Agadah in Parashat Yitro, in Otzaat Buber. When they come up to this particular section, you notice that there's two words missing. Where does it say there? It says, the Holy One, blessed is He, said to the Jewish people, my sons, borrow on my account and properly sanctify the holiness of the day, and I'll repay your loans. You notice the difference here? You have multiple sources in the Zohar, in the Psikta Zutrata, and the Midrash that say this, but they have two less words than what the Gemara says. The Gemara from Rabbi Tachlifa here is saying something extra. Or Rabbi Eliezer says something extra. What's the extra? The Holy One, blessed is He, said to the Jewish people, my sons, borrow on my account and properly sanctify the holiness of the day, and have faith in me, have emunah in me, and I will repay your loans. Two simple words. Ve'aminu bi, in Hebrew. How come Rabbi Eliezer here, or in the name of Rabbi Yochanan, in the name of Rabbi Eliezer, adds these two words, that to have faith in Hashem and then Hashem will pay back? This, Rabotai, teaches us something very, very critical, that he is adding to the lesson. For all of those that are asking, yeah, but how much can I borrow? Yeah, but how much can I spend on Shabbat, on mitzvot, on everything? If you would have already read the Zohar, you could say, you could borrow, and you could think to yourself, borrow whatever you want, Hashem is going to pay for it. If you would have read the Midrash, you would have read the same conclusion. Psikta Zutrita, same conclusion. But if you came to the Gemara, you would have said, wait a minute, hold on a second. It says here to have faith in Hashem, have emunah in Hashem, have trust in Hashem, and He'll pay back. What does it mean? It means, Rabotai, you can borrow as much as you believe. That's how you determine what you can borrow. What you can do in order to sanctify Hashem's name, as far as how much to invest in it, how much to give, how much to spend, how much to borrow, it's all based on where your emunah really is. If you have 100% emunah, which is almost non-existent in the traditional world, then you can literally borrow as much as you want. Like the Rabbi Ponovich. The Rabbi Ponovich was one of the Gdolei Hador, but he's not one of the Gdolei Hador because he wrote 1.5 million books and has every chidush under the sun, but rather because of how he built an empire of Torah. Now, how did he build this empire of Torah? He came, he had enough money to get the land, and he said to the people, okay, start building. Whoa, what do you want us to build? A little room? No, I want you to build enough to have 4,000 students studying in the same place. Rabbi, first of all, do you know how much that's going to cost? Talking about millions of dollars. Yeah, you have millions of dollars? Don't worry. When you build it, I'll have it. Okay. Second, let's say you have the money. Let's say HaKadosh Baruch Hu sends you the money. Where are you going to find 4,000 people to study in your yeshiva? Maybe in the entire Eretz Yisrael at that time, there was maybe 50 that were going to be able to come to your yeshiva. Where are you going to have? HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, Levu alai v'ani poreah. You borrow my name, I'm going to pay. Not only pay the money, but also the outcome. Also the outcome. And literally, you would have the money, you give them, okay, go build as much as this money pays. We're going to keep building. One day, they didn't have the money. So, what are we going to do? Don't worry, keep going, I'll give you the money. One time there was a delay where I believe it was the cement or some of the supplies didn't show up. So the construction workers were there, like, listen, Rabbi, we're sorry to tell you, but you already hired us for the day. You still have to pay us, even though there's nothing for us to do. He said, no problem. All of you go into the Bet Midrash and start learning. We're construction workers. Okay, so whatever you want to learn. You want to learn the Chumash? Learn Chumash. You want to learn Gemara? Learn Gemara. You want to read Tehillim? Read Tehillim all day. How much time did I pay for you already? A whole day, 8 hours, 10 hours? Okay, go into the Bet Midrash, start learning as much time, because I have you all day. Within literally 25, 30 minutes, all the construction workers came back outside and said, Rabbi, listen, you don't have to pay us. It's much harder to go learn Torah, this empire that you're building, than for us to build this building. And this, Rabotai, were tzaddikim that lived among us not too long ago. So if a person has extraordinary emunah, they could literally build an empire of Torah with 3 shekels in their pocket. Why? Levu alai v'ani poreah. HaKadosh Baruch Hu will pay every single penny you invest into his Torah. But if a person is a pretender, if a person is a faker, and he's really borrowing money because he wants to have his name on a building, he's really building a yeshiva because he wants to tell people, I have a yeshiva, look at me. He's really donating the money because he knows that as soon as the community finds out that he donated, perhaps they'll do some business with him, so it becomes like an advertising investment. If he's doing it because of that, Kadosh Baruch Hu says, you're on your own. You're on your own. I can't help you. Why? You're not investing in my Torah. You're investing in yourself. You're doing marketing. Some people invest into Google. You're investing into tzedakah. Same thing. They do marketing with Google. They do marketing with YouTube. They do marketing with the newspaper. They do marketing with all types of companies. You do marketing in your synagogue by telling everybody, I'm going to donate $1 million. Ooh. Wow, Mr. Reuven over there donated $1 million in synagogue. He must be doing well. Listen, I want to do well. Yeah, but you're already doing well. Yeah, but I want to do better. I want to do well like him. I could donate $1 million next year. So how are you going to do it? I'm going to go do business with Reuven over there. That's what people do. They donate their big hot shots in order for what? For everybody to know, this guy's a big shot. So he gets business. That's marketing. That's not donations. That's not donations that are based on emunah. That is simply marketing your name, building your name, earning kavod, and so on. I don't recommend for you to expect HaKadosh Baruch Hu to pay back such a investment. HaKadosh Baruch Hu didn't say he's going to pay back investments. He says loans on his name. Loans on his name, meaning the only reason why you're doing it is for the sake of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Even if nobody ever says thank you, even if your name is not on the door, even if no one even recognizes or gives you the credit for doing it, and worse yet, even if everyone insults you and abuses you and makes fun of you, like they did on Moshe Rabbeinu, you're still going to do it because it's good for HaKadosh Baruch Hu's name to get bigger. Then HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, I'll pay for it. Now, do you have that emunah? Perhaps not 100%, maybe 10, maybe 20, maybe 30%, maybe 50%, maybe 80%, whatever emunah everybody has. How do you know how much emunah you have? When does it start hurting? When does the tzedakah start hurting? When does the expenses on this mitzvah start hurting? That's where your emunah begins. If it's easy for you to give, you're not really exercising your emunah muscles to grow them, you're maintaining them. Once you start giving amounts and giving for things that perhaps you don't understand, but it's still Torah, perhaps you don't agree with, but it's still Torah, perhaps you don't even want to, but it's still Torah, and you give and you do it and it's hard for you, now you're exercising your emunah muscles. Now you're exercising your emunah muscles. Now you're showing HaKadosh Baruch Hu, I just borrowed this $5,000 for you. I just borrowed the $5,000 for you. Pay me back whenever you want, though. I'm not expecting the money next week. I'm not giving HaKadosh Baruch Hu terms and conditions and sign over here. I'm only borrowing this $5,000 so you give it to me before the end of the year. I'm borrowing it because simply this is what I have to do to show Hashem I believe in Him. I trust in Him. Whatever He decides to pay me back, that's His business. I'm not giving the King of Kings that gave me air to breathe, and eyes to see, and ears to hear, and a mouth to speak with conditions of when to give me what He owes me. No conditions. I'm doing it simply because this is my job in the world. He gave me the opportunity to give. Therefore, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, I'm doing it. You said you're going to pay back. You didn't say when. Could be next week. Could be next month. Could be next year. But nonetheless, just like I believe in you, and that's why I did it, I believe in you because I know you're going to do it and give me back whatever I need and even more. And this, Rabotai, is not an easy mitzvah. Don't think for a second that it's an easy mitzvah. It's a very difficult mitzvah. It's a very difficult mitzvah because it requires a person to go against his own natural common sense. Because, as I said, this is a supernatural law. It's not a natural thing. There's nothing natural about it. But needless to say, here we see that the amount that we can give is based on how much emunah we have. Now, furthermore, the Mechilta, the Rabbi Ishmael, in Parashat Beshalach, on the verse that starts the parasha, it talks about, and Paro let go of Am Yisrael. It says, the Mechilta asks a question. Why did HaKadosh Baruch Hu have Am Yisrael wander in a desert for 40 years? Why didn't He just give him an easy route to go to Eretz Yisrael? Now, if you look at the verses, it literally says it. If there was an easier route to go to Eretz Yisrael, there was an easier route to go back to Egypt. So as soon as they had any type of hardship, they would have returned back to slavery. Because they didn't have enough emunah to really go the full stretch. So in essence, HaKadosh Baruch Hu made them wander in the desert for 40 years. Also, you can say it's because they messed up, the golden calf, the spies, the complaining, and so on and so forth. Those are all different basic literal reasons that are mentioned in the Torah of why Am Yisrael was in the desert for 40 years. But it also says that everything that Ribono Shel Olam does, everything that the Master of the world does, it's always for the best. It's always for the best. Meaning, you did something and Hashem has to react. You take an action, Hashem decides what the outcome is going to be of that action. You decide to jump, Hashem decides when you're going to drop and where you're going to drop. You decide to buy, Hashem decides whether it was a good deal or a bad deal. You decide to get married, Hashem decides whether this is the zivug or not the zivug, based on certain things that you did. But nonetheless, we take action. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is the one that decides the outcome. You are with your wife, Hashem decides whether you're going to have children or not. Now, as far as that's concerned, Hashem is the one that decides the outcome of everything. And that outcome that He chooses, however it may look, whether it looks bad because perhaps somebody died, or somebody got hurt, or somebody lost money, or lost something else, and so it looks bad. But yet, there's another rule in the nature of the world that Hashem created, which is every outcome that you have is the best possible outcome available for that situation. Meaning, all of the outcomes that you're wondering that could have been if you would have arrived on time at a certain appointment, or if you would have bought such and such, or if you would have done such and such, all of the outcomes that didn't happen to you. Because the outcome, if you're happy with it, then obviously this is, you're not going to question why Hashem gave you the best outcome. But if there's an outcome that doesn't look good, and in fact looks terrible, and you're thinking, if I would have done this, something else would have happened. If I would have done that, something else would have happened. Those are words of heresy. Why? The outcome that HaKadosh Baruch Hu decided from your actions is the best possible outcome that could have been out of all of the choices that you could have been. All of the outcomes that you're thinking either were not available to you based on your actions. Simply, they were not a real choice. You're just imagining that they're a choice. They're not a real choice. You either didn't deserve them, or they were not possible and under the normal rules of nature that Hashem utilizes in the world, and so on and so forth. They're not real options. So either they could not have happened. That's one choice. Or they're not as good as the outcome that you got. Meaning the outcome that you got is the best possible choice available to you. So now, Rabotai, we go back to the question. Why did Hashem decide to have Am Yisrael wander in the desert for 40 years? The basic understanding that we see from the verses is to eliminate them going back to Egypt, to do a lot of other things. We see, or because they did something wrong with the golden calf, with the spies, and so on and so forth as a punishment. But yet, still, it doesn't negate the fact that them being in a desert for 40 years is still indeed the best possible thing that could have happened. What is so good about it? Comes Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai and says the following. Hashem did not have Am Yisrael go on an easy route to Eretz Yisrael, and instead had them wander in the desert for 40 years, because had he brought them to Eretz Yisrael, they would have immediately started to work on the land and abandoned learning Torah. So here we see HaKadosh Baruch Hu wanted to make sure that Am Yisrael studies Torah day and night. But if they have work to do, they have to work the land, they have to build buildings, they have to build stores, they have to farm, they have to do this, they have to do that. When are they going to learn the Torah? So HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, don't worry about building anything. Food will come to you from Shemayim. Water, you'll have a river based on the merit of Miriam, follow you through all the years. Fresh water that can taste like anything you want. You want it to taste like orange juice? It'll taste like orange juice. You want it to taste like wine? It'll be wine. Water? It'll be water. Filtered water or mineral water or the type of water that kind of tastes like Coca-Cola. Whatever water you want, that's the water you're going to have. The manna could also be whatever taste you have. Based on your righteousness, it'll also be as close to your house. The Gemara Masechet Shabbat says if they were extremely righteous, the manna arrived right next to their house, fully cooked, and could taste like anything. Could taste like anything. If they were wicked, it was far from their house, they had to go get it, and they would have to cook it too. So there was different types of manna based on the righteousness of the person, but nonetheless, you don't have to worry about working for your manna. And some company or some field or do some type of farming, none of that is necessary. All you do, day and night, for 40 years, learn Torah. Learn Torah, you'll get the manna, you'll get the water, you'll have protection with the clouds of glory, 7 clouds surrounded Am Yisrael. You have yourself everything made for you. All you need to do is learn Torah. All you need to do is learn Torah. If I bring you to the land, you're not going to learn Torah. Why? First of all, there's no manna in Eretz Yisrael. There's no river in Eretz Yisrael. You have to go work the land. So you're going to feel, oh, this is my natural responsibility. This is what Hashem wants me to do. Now, although working is good, although a person should work in order to earn his place, pay for his bills, do whatever he needs to do, sometimes his work is Torah, sometimes his work is not Torah, it's something else. But needless to say, he's still responsible to learn Torah and observe it. Either way, if I bring you to the land, You're immediately going to learn Torah only part of the day at best, and maybe even abandon it altogether because you haven't committed to it yet, because you've only had it for a short period of time. So that's why I want you to learn Torah day and night for 40 years, to have it ingrained in you and into your descendants to the point where even somebody 3,300 years that never even heard one single complete verse in the Torah hears it for the first time in a lecture, he's ignited. Why? Because you spend 40 years learning Torah. You spend 40 years learning Torah, it's already ingrained into your DNA, Am Yisrael. That's why you'll see many times the Baalei Tshuva, the new people that are coming into the Torah world, what happens with them? What was it? Always a near-death experience? A car accident? Lost money? Not necessarily. Not necessarily. A lot of people have accidents. A lot of people lose money. A lot of people have all types of experiences, but they don't all necessarily do tshuva. What's the difference with the Baal Tshuva? The Baal Tshuva heard some Torah. He heard some Torah and it sparked that neshama. That neshama that was sleeping for 20, 30, 40, 50 years wakes up. Wakes up from something that HaKadosh Baruch Hu has in the Torah that connects with their neshama. That connects with their neshama, Rabotai. This is one of the most beautiful things that we had in the desert, one of the benefits. But that's also why Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai says in the Gemara, HaKadosh Baruch Hu did not give the Torah for anyone other than those that had the merit because they ate manna. What does eating manna have to do with merit? What does eating manna have to do with merit? I ate manna in the desert for 40 years because Hashem sent it to me. It was the best food. No. Rabbi Shimon says, Am Yisrael earned merit by eating manna. Why? They were in the desert for 40 years. They had no idea how long they're going to be there. But they were in the desert for 40 years. HaKadosh Baruch Hu sent the manna. But the manna was not something that they can keep for the next day. They couldn't put it in a refrigerator. They couldn't salt it and preserve it. Whatever you ate, that's it. Everything else became uneatable, completely full of worms and maggots. Therefore, whatever portion Hashem gave you, that's what you needed for the day. In essence, the merit of those that ate the manna was that HaKadosh Baruch Hu was teaching them for 40 years what is emunah in Hashem? What is bitachon in Hashem? What is trust in Hashem? What is faith in Hashem? What is it? It's that you're going to eat whatever you need to eat tomorrow, and come tomorrow, you know that HaKadosh Baruch Hu will give you. You're not going to not eat tomorrow. You're not going to not eat today because you're afraid you're not going to have tomorrow. No, you eat today whatever you eat, whatever you need. You spend today whatever you spend because that's what you need. Comes tomorrow, know that there's a God that runs the entire world and knows every little detail that's happening in your personal life. And if you need it, He will be the first one to give it to you. Now, if your needs are changed based on your observance of His mitzvot, your sanctification of His name, to such an extent that you go out and you say, listen, Hashem, I want to do more. I want to give more. Not because of my honor. Not because of some kavod that I want to get. Some respect that I want to get. Not because of a business deal. No. I want more people to know Torah. I want more people to have food for the holidays. I want more Torah to learn, and so on and so forth. But I don't have the money. That very same HaKadosh Baruch Hu says to you, my dear son, my dear daughter, I already taught you in the desert for 40 years. My number one concern is the Torah. That's why I left you in the desert for 40 years. One of the greatest things that you learned from my Torah in the desert and from your lives in the desert is to have confidence in me. Go use that confidence and borrow on my name for the sake of my mitzvot, for the sake of my name, and I will pay for it. I will pay for it. This, Rabotai, is one of the most important things that a person has to work on. Because once a person has bitachon, the amount of anxiety you have in your life decreases with the increase of your bitachon. It's an inverse relationship. As bitachon goes up, anxiety goes down. As bitachon goes up, the stresses of life go down. They have less of an impact on you. I'm not saying they don't happen. The stresses and the problems of your life happen, and they may even increase or decrease throughout time. But the more bitachon, the more emunah a person has, the less they impact him, the less they affect him, the less they shake him. They may shake him a lot, but only for an hour. They may shake her a lot, but only for 20 minutes. She'll recover quickly. Why? I have bitachon in Hashem. I have confidence in Hashem. All I did is I went and I borrowed for the sake of his mitzvot. That's all I did. I didn't go and steal. I didn't go and do things that are against him. I didn't go to some idol worshipping place. I went and I did mitzvot. What did I do? I did mitzvot. I spent money for yeshiva. I spent money for Torah. I spent money to help people that are poor. Tzaddikim. What did I do? Okay, so now I have money to pay rent. Okay, that's what Hashem wants me to have. That's a test. That's a test. I'm not worried for a second. Yeah, it's annoying to get those threatening letters from the landlord and those different things that people get. Yeah, but what did I do? Did I do something wrong? I did what HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants me to do in the world. So now it's a difficulty? Okay, that's a difficulty that he wants me to have. That's not going to change my faith in him of how much he's going to give me or whether he's going to give me. I know for sure he's going to give me. It's just not today. Maybe it's in an hour from now. Maybe it's tomorrow. Maybe it's next week. Needless to say, the anxieties are there, but their impact on me change based on how much emunah and bitachon I have. This is one of the things that you see among Klal Israel, among the tzaddikim of Am Yisrael, regular people, big tzaddikim, all types of wonderful people in our nation throughout all of history. All of history living their lives in such a way that you see their emunah through their life. You see their emunah through their life. That's why the Gemara says that you should each day, a person should say the Tehillim, the Psalm 68 verse 20. Baruch Adonai Yom Yom. Blessed is Hashem day after day. Why? Each day, another battle, another test. Ishtabach Shimo. Blessed is his name. Blessed is his name for these tests. Blessed is his name for his sustenance. Blessed is his name for his rescuing of me. Blessed is his name. But just today. Why? Tomorrow I have to bless him all over again because tomorrow he'll save me again. Tomorrow he'll help me again. Blessed is his name every day. That's, Rabotai, one of the things that a person needs to live by. Now, how do the tzaddikim really apply this to their life? It's a very famous story about the Or HaChaim HaKadosh, Rabbi Chaim ben Attar, who was one of the Gedolei Hador, lived in Morocco, and he was a person that loved the Torah in such a way and learned the Torah in such a way that it was beyond extraordinary. A lot of huge chidushim, new insights on the Torah, on different parts of it. It's just unbelievable stuff. Anyone that has the fortune to read some of his commentary on the Torah or other things, Yamash Ashrechem. You have Mamash, it's unbelievable stuff. It's not easy, but nonetheless, it's beautiful. Beautiful things. Beautiful chidushim about everything. This Or HaChaim, he worked for some Arab jeweler. But he had an unusual deal. What's the deal? Every day I'm going to work exactly how much money I need to earn. I need to earn 10 shekels so I could spend a few shekels to buy food for my family, a few shekels to pay for the house. That's it, finished. As soon as I earn the amount of shekels that I need for the day, I stop working and go learn Torah. Now for a while, this worked out. The Arab boss didn't really have much of a choice because Rabbi Chaim ben Attar, the Or HaChaim, was extraordinarily talented. He made very, very nice jewelry. So he didn't have much of a choice. At the same token, he didn't have much of a demand for more. Until one day, the Sultan the Sultan comes and there's a wedding in his house, and he comes to this Arab jeweler and he says, listen, I see that you make the most beautiful jewelry. I want you to make a special piece of jewelry for every member of my family. So, he took the contract and he had to meet a deadline. And because Rabbi Chaim ben Attar had this special deal, he said to him, no, I need you to work more. Oh, Chaim said, no, I don't work more. I work exactly like every other day. The fact that you sign a contract and you have a deal, that's your problem. I'm going to work the same thing that I work. I need to earn 5 shekels today. That's what I'm going to work. I need to earn 10. That's what I'm going to work. Yeah, but I have the king. He told me, I work for the bigger king. I work for the King of Kings. As you would have it, the time came. The Sultan is expecting, the King of Morocco is expecting the delivery of this jewelry and doesn't have it. They bring the Arab in. So I'm going to kill you. You embarrass my whole family. He says, no, your highness, it's not my fault. It's not your fault. What do you mean it's not your fault? Whose fault is it if it's not your fault? You're the jeweler. He says, no, it's this Jew's fault. Jew? What Jew? This Jew that works for me doesn't want to work for your highness. What? Bring him in here. They confirmed that's the case. So, we're going to feed you to my lions. This king had a cage of lions. Anytime somebody didn't do exactly what he said, he made them lunch for his lions. So they made sure to starve the lions for a few days. And then they tell Rabbi Chaim ben Attar, you're going to become lunch for the lions. Rabbi Chaim ben Attar did not get nervous, did not even think for a second. He says, can I bring my tefillin with me and also my book? What? Those boxes on your head? Yeah. Can I bring those? Yeah, sure. They'll eat that too. They'll probably like it. Maybe they'll clean their teeth with it. And the book. Can I bring the book? For what? What, the lions? You're going to teach the lions how to read? No, I want to read. You think you're going to read? They started laughing at him. Look at this Jew. He thinks he's going to read his books with the lions. He doesn't realize the lions are going to eat him and the book. Go ahead, bring. Go ahead, Rabbi. Go, bring the book. And he puts on his tefillin, and he takes his book, and they put him into the lion cage. They were so scared of the lions, they themselves would not enter the cage. Expecting to see the lions jump on him and eat him up and tear him up to pieces. Everyone is shocked. As soon as Rabbi Chaim ben Attar sits down on the ground, opens his sefer, and starts learning Torah, and all of the lions that have been starved for several days come and sit right next to Rabbi Chaim ben Attar. Now, initially, they don't know what to tell the king. They say, oh, maybe somebody messed up and really fed them already this morning. Did you do it? Nobody knows. Okay, you know what? Let's not tell the king. Let them not eat anything for a little while. They'll probably eat them later today. The next day they come. Rabbi Chaim ben Attar is still learning Torah. Hasn't eaten. Hasn't drunk anything. The lions haven't eaten. They haven't drunk. Everybody's fasting. And they're all still sitting. And once in a while, they lick his feet. They're playful with him. Next day, 3 days. 3 days these lions are there, sitting at Rabbi Chaim ben Attar's feet and waiting. And Rabbi Chaim ben Attar, without drinking, without eating, simply learning Torah non-stop. After 3 days, the people are saying, okay, this must be a very holy person, that the creation is scared of him. These lions are scared of him. They will not eat him. They ran to the king and they told him, Your Highness, you have to see this. The king comes and he sees Rabbi Chaim ben Attar sitting and learning Torah with his tefillin on, reading a book. And the lions, scared to death of this rabbi. Immediately this king apologizes to him, says, please, would you please come out with us? We're really sorry. falls on his floor, kisses his feet. I'm sorry, I didn't know you were such a holy person. Mamash like the story of Daniel in the Tanakh. And this is not 3,000 years ago. It's a couple hundred years ago, 300 years ago. Rabbi Chaim ben Natan. A person that had emunah in HaKadosh Baruch Hu to such an extent, they literally would not work a minute more than was needed because it would hurt their Torah. They did not work because they wanted to go play video games and smoke marijuana. They did not work because they wanted to go hang out with the boys and girls. They did not work because they wanted to sleep a little extra before they die and sleep permanently. No! He didn't work because it would interfere with his Torah schedule. And it's better not to eat, not to drink, than to interfere my Torah schedule, Rabbi Chaim ben Atar says. This, Rabotai, was one of the extraordinary behaviors of the tzaddikim. Another story was a tzaddik in Yemen, Rabbi Tzaddik Sawani. He was one of the Gdolim in Yemen. And one day, he's in a shuk, he's in the market, and one of his people of the community comes up and goes, Rabbi, please, I need you to help me. What's wrong? I don't have any parnasah, I don't have money for Shabbat. Okay, sure, no problem, I'll help you. How much do you need? No, Rabbi, I don't want any gifts. Okay, so what do you want me to do? He says, I want you to buy from my store. Okay. Comes to a store. He sees the whole store is full of pumpkins. He says, okay, what else do you sell other than pumpkins? He says, that's it. No, but there's other vegetables perhaps? No. Is something else around? No. I mean, how much pumpkin can you buy for Shabbat? Okay, so, take a piece of pumpkin. I'll buy this. So the guy says to Rabbi Tanwani, he says, Kvod Harav, yesterday I learned that the Torah says, Levu alai ve'ani poreah. Hashem says, borrow on me, on my account, and I'll pay for it. So why don't Kvod Harav borrow to buy all of these pumpkins that I have? For the honor of Shabbat, all the pumpkins. Borrow all of it. Surely Hashem is going to reward you. He's going to give you the money back. And I'll have enough money to live my life and stop struggling. Why Kvod Harav? Just buy all the pumpkins. Rav Tanwani looks at him and says, Psh, you're right. Okay, I'll buy the whole store. And that moment, he bought the whole store and he distributed all of these pumpkins to the poor people of the community. Why? He believed what it said in the Torah. Simple. You're going to say, oh, what are you going to do? How are you going to pay back? No questions. That's people that have 100% emunah. Those are people that have 100% emunah. We're not necessarily at 100% emunah, Rabotai. But we shouldn't be at zero either. Well, Hashem is not expecting you to start your whole life at 100% emunah. But He's also not expecting to have zero after all the gifts He's already given you. Just to wake up is a miracle. To be able to see from two balloons that you call eyes is a miracle. All the different things that happen in your life are miraculous. Surely that earns Hashem a little bit more than zero emunah. And one of the most effective places to exercise your emunah is when it comes to money. Why? Because a person really feels like they earn the money. So when a person gives tzedakah, when a person gives maaser, like they're supposed to, they're showing Hashem that they have emunah in Him. Unfortunately, Rabotai, sometimes people, the way they give and the way they want to receive are two different things. There was a woman that came to Rabbanit Sarah, Rabbi Ephraim's Rabbanit, his wife. And she says to her, we're struggling, we have all these major expenses, our business is going downhill, we need a major deal for at least $100,000 to come through to get us out of this situation. So Rabbanit asks her, you were making lots of money, were you very particular about giving maaser, giving 10% of your income? She goes, no, never. Did you give maaser? No, but you need to give maaser. You need to give maaser. That's the parnasah. So the woman says to her, okay, fine. She takes out 20 shekels, which is about $7, out of her pocket. Well, it's okay, here you go. Give it to some tzedakah to help somebody. So the Rabbanit says, Ribono shel olam, look at that. People want to give $20, but they want Hashem to give them $100,000 in return. Like, this is the logic of people. They want to give $20 as if it's like, yeah, give tzedakah. Like, yeah, go ahead. I'll invest $20. Give me $100,000, I'll invest $20. Sure, it's a good deal. Like, this is what they think. They think that if they're going to give a little chump change, that they pretty much have pocket change. You're going to give it, Hashem's going to give them the whole world. It doesn't work that way. To give Maaser Rabotai is not only something that some of the sages say is a Torah obligation, Maaser Ksafim, but even more so, even for the ones that say that it's not a Torah obligation to give 10% of your income, still everyone unanimously agrees that this is one of the most effective ways that a person has to build his emunah, build har emunah, build their bitachon by giving this 10% of their income. And also you should know that when the Jewish people give 10% for the sake of Torah, HaKadosh Baruch Hu pays that money back, but also he protects Am Yisrael. Number one, he protects them because he protects their assets. Because that's what the Gaon of Vilna says. It says a person that gives 10% gets a promise that Hashem is going to protect him. He's not going to lose all of his money. That's why she asked him, the Rabbanit asked her, did you give Maaser? Because if you gave Maaser, you wouldn't be losing all your money. That's in essence what the message was. So when a person gives this Maaser, this 10% for the sake of Torah, he has protection of the money. Second thing is, if you publicize in Torah, you make yourself a person that's needed in the world. A person that's needed in the world. And Chazal says, Kol ha-mezakeh et harabim, all the people that do kiruv, that help, either by investing their money or doing other things to help more Torah be spread into the world, the merit of all the people that do mitzvot because of them stands up for them, fights for them, meaning that you get special protection to live even longer as a result of this investment. So you have a lot of protection. But even more so, Rabotai, it shows Hashem that you believe in Him, that He is the one that gave you 100%, and really all you're doing is investing 10% into building His name to be even bigger, into building His nation to be even more righteous, into building His Torah to be even more grand. That's what you're doing. You're in essence saying, Hashem, I know you gave me 100% of the money that I have, and more, to show you that I know. I can't just say I believe in you. I can't just say Shema Yisrael. I can't just say, oh yeah, I love Hashem. No, I'm investing into you. I'm investing into your Torah. I'm showing you that I believe in you by actually making sure that 10% of every dollar that comes into my pocket goes for the Torah. Now that is to protect your money. But then the Gaon of Vilna says, if a person wants to become rich during his life, then he has to do what's called chomesh. Why? Because the pasuk in the Torah says, Maaser ta'asher, that you should give it's 210, 2 times 10. 2 times 10 is 20. If a person gives 20% of their income for the sake of Torah, for kiruv, and things of that nature, the Gaon of Vilna says that person is promised from Hashem that they will become wealthy during their life, in addition to having protection of their assets. The Gemara in Masechet Ta'anit says that there was a very wealthy person named Nagdimon ben Gurion who gave a lot of tzedakah. He's a big tzaddik. He's one of the 4 people. The Gemara says that Hashem made a miracle for him, that the sun stood up in the sky just for him, for his honor. So he's a very, very righteous person. But one day, Rabbi Yochanan sees that his daughter was collecting things through the waste of the donkeys of the Arabs. He says, "What are you doing? Who are you?" He says, "I'm looking for food. Perhaps they didn't digest one of these seeds, so we could eat it. We could cook it and eat it." He says, "Who are you?" And she says, "I am Nagdimon ben Gurion's daughter." He says, "But your father is the richest man of the land." She said, "Not anymore. He lost everything." He said, what about your father-in-law? He invested with them. He said, exactly, because he invested with them, he also lost everything. And then again, the Chachamim said, how could that be? She said he gave, but he didn't give enough. Meaning he gave up millions of dollars, but it wasn't quite 10%. Sometimes there are people that give a lot of money, but it's not quite 10%. It's not quite 10%. They give 3%, they give 2%, they give 5%, but they don't give 10%. Very few people actually are particular about giving 10%. And that's the reason why when you have financial crises, you know exactly which rich person gave 10% and which didn't. You know, whoever lost money, that's the guy that didn't give 10%. Now again, a person can give 10 or even 20%, but if they're giving it to go save some family zoo or some strange civilization in Mars, obviously that's not going to protect their assets or even their life. So that's another thing. But then the Gaon of Vilna says, if you give 20%, I promise you that you will be rich. I promise you that you will be rich. Now, Baruch Hashem, I've seen this in my life with people that stand up to the test of giving tzedakah and succeeding because of it, getting protection, getting better jobs, getting a lot of things. But recently we saw something very interesting. Very interesting, true story. It's one of the people on Team Hashem. So it's not a story of a story of a story that I heard and read in some book. It's a story I know firsthand. One family that Baruch Hashem were very serious about Torah and mitzvot, but also very serious about fulfilling what Rabbi Reuven says. Rabbi Reuven says, you want wealth, you have to follow what the Gaon of Vilna says, which is 20%. He said, if Rabbi Reuven said it, in the name of the Gaon of Vilna, in the name of HaKadosh Baruch Hu himself, who's better than you? Yeah, okay, fine, but that's easy if you're making lots of money. Make 10, 20, 50, $100,000. No one really needs $100,000 a year, $100,000 a day, $100,000 a month. No one really needs all that. So it's easier to give, right? They were living in horrendous poverty, barely able to make ends meet, borrowing from family members, trying to do whatever they can, struggling. But whatever they got, 20% goes to tzedakah. 20% goes to tzedakah. 20% goes to Torah. No questions asked. Now, in this rate, maybe you'll be able to move out of your parents' house with your cute little kids and your husband and your wife. Maybe you'll be able to move out of this house, I don't know, perhaps in 100, 200, 300 years from now. Perhaps maybe if you save, $1 a day, perhaps maybe in 300 years you'll be able to get a house. HaKadosh Baruch Hu says no. They don't have to wait 300 years. They don't have to wait 300 years. Yeah, but they only make a certain amount of money, which is just enough for them to live, sometimes not even enough. And the cheapest house that they can go into, they don't even have enough money to pay the rent. Forget about buying a house, which the cheapest house in the neighborhood is $300,000, $400,000. Non-existent. Hashem says, why does it have to be existent? Why does it have to be natural? But what other way is there? Is the hand of Hashem short? The Pasuk says, is there something that he can't do? And this couple, Rabotai, this young family, few beautiful kids, wonderful people, they, Baruch Hashem, just a couple of months ago, 2-3 months ago, one of the Torah investments that they made yielded them a reward. What? They got a call. Hi, how are you? Yeah, we just want to let you know that we had a raffle over here, and apparently Hashem decided you're the winner. Okay, great. So what do I get? Like a toy for my kid? I get maybe matzah for Pesach? Oh, maybe perhaps a vacation to Israel. Nice, it's a nice price. No, you got a $550,000 house in Lakewood. Excuse me? Yeah, $500,000 house in Lakewood. Now, you don't have to rent, you don't have to buy, you just have to move your stuff to this brand new, beautiful house. With no income change. HaKadosh Baruch Hu changed. Why? You give chomesh, you give 20%. HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, I will make you rich. When? He decides. Some people will have to give for a long time before they become rich. Some people for a shorter period of time. But nonetheless, you see HaKadosh Baruch Hu at work. Now they have a new dilemma. What's the new dilemma? We have to get money now to pay chomesh, to pay 20% on this house that we got, this $500,000 house that we got. Very interesting dilemma. That's how righteous these people are. But the point being is, that's a nice problem. It's a nice problem to have. That's a very nice problem to have. That in the past you worried about how could I afford this $100, $200, $300, $400 tzedakah that I give. How could I afford it? Barely making ends meet. Now, what am I going to do in order to get the $100,000 I have to give for the sake of the chomesh that got me this in the first place? This, Rabotai, is the life of a Jew. A Jew that lives simply with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Simple life. Tamim tiyeh Hashem. Tamim tiyeh Hashem, Rabotai Yekarim. When a person is simple with Hashem, miracles will surround him. Now, the Jewish people have been used to such miraculous stories, not just from today, but throughout all of our generations. All of our generations had miracle upon miracle, but apparently some of us have not learned them, some of us don't believe them, or some of us think they're not relevant to us. That's why I started off with a story that I know firsthand, real person, real family, and I know exactly the location. So, this is real stories, but I'll tell you some other real stories that weren't today, weren't yesterday, but perhaps happened a little longer. But they're public stories, they're documented stories, they're written across many, many books that happened to Klal Yisrael. Klal Yisrael that at times were being tested, and at times they had a test that seemed like it was impossible to pass. There was one time, there was a community in Tzfat. This community in Tzfat was at the time under the control of the Arabs, and the leader over there of the Arabs was a very zealous about his hatred of Jews. So every so often he would try to torture them in different ways by instituting new laws and new types of things in order to torture them. And one day this Arab is having a gathering with the rest of his Muslim brothers, and says, we have to come up with a new way to torture the Jewish people, because they're doing everything and there's really nothing I can do. They're paying their taxes, they're not bothering anybody, so I'm getting bored. I have to torture them in some way. Anyone has a clever way? As he was saying it, a chicken jumped on a rooster, jumped on the table, and one of the guys said, Your Highness, I have a great idea. That gave me a great idea. What? Listen, it's well known that right now, it's impossible to find a white rooster. Impossible. Why don't you do this? Go to the Jewish people, tell them you have 3 days to give me 500 white roosters or I'm killing everybody. At least you won't look like a vicious person because you're giving them the condition, and you're even gracious enough to give them 3 days. Of course, he loved this, sent the messengers. They brought it to the Jewish people over there, who started crying, saying to Hashem, what is this evil decree? What are we going to do with this decree? How? Everyone started running around, go find white roosters. After 2 days of searching, Rabotai, not even a single white rooster. Not even a single white rooster. And that afternoon, one of the messengers of the Arabs sees that there's nothing there and talks to the Jews. And they say to him, listen, we can't find anything. He says, you have a problem? Go talk to the Sultan. Go talk to the king over there. Go talk to the master. Tell him you don't have anything. The Jewish people come to him, plead for mercy, say, please, we can't find even a single white rooster. Give us some more time. This menuval, this despicable excuse of a human being, says to them, you have a few hours to give me 500 roosters like I asked, or I'm killing every single one of you. Immediately the Jews cried to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, asking for some type of salvation, and think, let's go to the tzaddik. Who's the tzaddik? The tzaddik, Rabbi Yosef Sargusi. They go to Rabbi Yosef Sargusi, and they say, Kvod Rav, please help us. We need these white roosters. HaKadosh Baruch Hu listens to you. You're one of his soldiers. Please help us. We tried our best. So Rabbi Yosef Sargusi says to them, fine. Go bring me all the roosters you can find. Give me 500 roosters, no matter what color they are. So, you see, fine. Tzaddik says we do. They go, they gather all of the roosters they could find. They bring it to his home. All the people are there. 500 roosters everywhere, jumping around. Rabbi Yosef Sargusi says to them, did you get 500 exactly? They said, yes, Kvod Rav, we got 500 exactly. Fine. He goes, turns around, prays to HaKadosh Baruch Hu out loud, says, Ribono shel olam, help your children. Help your children. As he's praying to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, people are looking if something's going to happen. Maybe white roosters are going to come from somewhere. They look down. Pele Plaim, wonder of wonders. All 500 roosters turned white. Same roosters they got. They were different colors. Changed color. All of them became white. As they finished the prayer, the Arabs come with all their horses and weapons and everything, ready to murder everybody, because they know there's no 500 roosters, not even one. But immediately see there's a white cloud of roosters everywhere. It's shocked. So here you go. Here's the 500 roosters. Surely there was nothing that these Arabs can do but realize that the God of Israel makes miracles for his children. And from that moment on, Rav Sargusi was called a tzaddik alavan, the white tzaddik. The white tzaddik. This is one of the many miracles that Am Yisrael had when push came to shove, simply because they knew they have to exert their own effort. They also have to have emunah. If you have a lot of emunah, you don't have to exert any effort. If you don't have a lot of emunah, you have to exert as much effort as possible. The commoners didn't have 100% emunah, so they had to exert themselves. The tzaddik had 100% emunah. He said, just give me 500 roosters. Doesn't matter what color they are. Why? I could just talk to Hashem, he could change it. That's the difference. Now again, you're not. No one is going to become a tzaddik overnight. Let's not be unreasonable. But no one has to be at zero either. That's a choice. That's a choice that each and every single one of us have. But of course, this also reminds me of another story that happened to Am Yisrael. Happened to Am Yisrael because, unfortunately, there's a pasuk in the Torah that says, "Me'arsaich u'me'arvaich b'mech yetzeu." Me'arsaich u'me'arvaich b'mech yetzeu is a pasuk that says that your conquerors, your destroyers will come from within you. Meaning that we will be our own worst enemy. Sometimes we are our own worst enemy because we have no emunah in Hashem. Sometimes we're our worst enemy because we don't teach our kids enough Torah, so they end up becoming lefty, liberal, anti-Torah people, self-hating Jews, people that hate the Torah or try to institute things that are against the Torah. This is a product of the parents. It's not something that just happens. All of the people that ended up converting to Christianity from Judaism, it's not just their fault. It's their parents' fault for not giving them the right education, for not investing into their Torah themselves, and not investing in the Torah for their kids, where sometimes you'll see somebody send their kid to yeshiva, but decide that, no, listen, this yeshiva is too expensive. Come to the rabbi and say, listen, rabbi, I want a discount. Now, true, the yeshivas today are obnoxiously expensive. But if we had emunah in Hashem, we would not care and we would not ask for a discount. Why? Because we know the Torah says, whatever I invest in Torah, Hashem will pay for it. Even if I have to borrow the money, Hashem will pay for it. Why are you asking for a discount? Sometimes people get so wrapped up with the money that they have to pay for tuition for the yeshiva, they decide stupidly, you know what, my kid doesn't need to go to yeshiva. I'm going to send him to public school. It's already his senior year. He'll continue keeping Shabbat, have a kippah on, but listen, we don't need this yeshiva anymore. We don't need to spend all this money on yeshiva. He could stay a Jew without yeshiva. And they're surprised that their kid ends up bringing some goya to their house, or their daughter brings some goy to their house and they want to marry each other. They're surprised. Oh, where'd you meet him? I met him in high school, in a non-Jewish high school you sent me to. Why? Because you didn't want to spend money on my yeshiva, on my Jewish seminary, or you sent me to one that says it's Jewish, but in reality it's more non-Jewish than Jewish, like some of the ones that we have here in Florida. There's a few of them that they literally have just as many non-Jews attending these schools as they do Jews, but they still call themselves Jewish schools. I don't know what's really Jewish about them. But nonetheless, Rabotai, parents that don't invest into the Torah are not only not showing that they have emunah in Hashem, but they also they become a partner in the crime of their kids. And unfortunately, this is why people grow up and become lefty, liberal, anti-Torah Jews. This happens. One of these such people lived in the city of Saragossa in Spain. At that time, the Spanish Jews had a lot of success, lots of money, lots of Torah, and they were doing well. But one of the people, a guy by the name of Joseph, left the Torah, converted to Christianity, and got himself into the king's palace, becoming one of the advisors of the king in Spain. And one day, the king decided that he's going to visit all of his towns, all of his people, and he passed by the Jewish community. And the Jews were one of his favorites. Why? Because they gave him a lot of honor. Where as soon as he would arrive into the town, he would get to their big Bet Knesset, and 3 people would come out with the Sifrei Torah, the Torah, and say, welcome to the king, and they would bring out their Torah with them. Now he didn't know that these Torahs were just the cases. The Torah scrolls were removed. Why? Because the halacha doesn't allow for you to just carry a Torah scroll just for the sake of showing somebody. That has to be for the sake of a mitzvah. But nonetheless, the king didn't know it. So they would walk every time they knew the king was coming, which was obviously always announced. The night before, the Gabbai would take out the Torah scroll, and they would have empty cases, but they would come out with the empty cases in the honor of the king, and he would feel good. He sees that he gets honor, and obviously doesn't know what the halacha is or laws or anything else, but he gets honor from the Jewish people. And that's exactly what happened here. He came, and the Jewish people came out with the Torah, Sifrei Torah, and he was very happy. Now, as soon as he got back to his palace, he started talking to all of his advisors about how wonderful all of his people are, but his special favorite were the Jewish people. Why? Because they give me such honor that when I come there, they bring to me what's most sacred to them. They bring me their Torah scrolls. They come out of their synagogues with their Torah scrolls, one after another. Comes this Rasha Merusha, Joseph, and says, Your Highness, I'm tired of these Jewish people fooling me. Tired of them, Your Highness. It's time to kill all of them. What? It's my favorite people. Why kill them? Because they've been fooling you, Your Highness. And I know this for a fact. He goes, how do you know? What do you know? He says, those Torah scrolls are not inside the cases. Your Highness, they're fooling you. In fact, you're thinking they're honoring you, but in fact, they're making fun of you. The king was furious. And he says, if that's the case, they have something coming to them, and I'm going to kill every single one of them. go and announce that I will be coming there tomorrow. Don't tell them who, what, when, and how. Announce the king is going to come again to all the different cities, and let the Jews know that I'll pass by theirs as well. And then we'll see who's the fool. This announcement was made. Surely the heads of the synagogue did the usual step, ran into the synagogue, took out all of the Torah scrolls, hid them, and prepared the cases like they usually do every time they see the king. Everybody was prepared, and that night, the Gabbai of the Bet Knesset, had a tough time going to sleep. Eventually he fell asleep, but immediately he had a dream where a tzaddik that was completely white and full of kedusha said to him, "Get up now and go and put back all of the Torah scrolls into the cases immediately, now." The Gabbai woke up scared, not knowing what just hit him, but knowing that this is a message from heaven. In the middle of the night, he ran to the synagogue without telling anybody, because that's one of the things that the tzaddik told him. Don't tell anybody what you did. And he put the Torah scrolls back in the cases, closed it up, and everything was ready for the next morning. No one knew what happened. No one knew that he put it back. Everyone was ready for the king. The king came to town, but unlike any other time, this time he stopped in front of the synagogue. As all of the Jewish leaders came with the Sifrei Torah, the king says to them, open those cases. I want to see what's inside." Immediately the Jewish leaders started crying and saying, "Woe to us! Woe to us! What is going to happen to us when he realizes that there's nothing in there and he's not going to understand? It has nothing to do with him. We're honoring him, but we're honoring him with what we're allowed to honor him with. Woe to us that this is happening." They open the cases and they see the king smiling. He says, my favorite people, my Jewish people, thank you. They look and they themselves see the Torah scrolls back inside. What a miracle. Immediately the king looks at that Jew, the advisor that he has that converted to Christianity. He says, "You liar. You tried to get all of my favorite people killed. Now you're going to get killed. You're going to get the punishment you wanted to give them." He pleaded for his life, but to no avail, Baruch Hashem, and got murdered in a fantastic way. But those Jewish people couldn't believe this miracle happened to them. This miracle happened to them where the Torah scrolls came back inside the cases. And every single year, when they were in Spain, they celebrated that particular day, which was the 16th of Shvat, and they called it Purim Saragossa, the miracle of Purim, but not the Purim that we talk about in the Tanakh, but rather the Purim that was unique, was wonderful, happened in the city of Saragossa. Rabotai Yekarim, these types of stories are the stories we need to learn. These types of stories are the ones we need to teach our children, so they know that miracles, supernatural, they may be something that's not understandable and not rational to us. But the world is not run by us. The world is run by the master of miracles, the creator of miracles, the creator of all creations, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. When we believe in HaKadosh Baruch Hu as much as he believes in us, our life turns into a miracle. Baruch Adonai Leolam, Amen ve'amen.
7 years of lectures. Seven months of film editing. Countless hours of study by 2 rabbis. Information we received over 3,000 years ago. All for this moment. Tikkun HaBRIT, the movie.
There's a small member in your body. It shouldn't take over your whole life. If you satiate it, you're never going to have enough.
The sulfur plant, when it gets a hold of something, it does not let go.
Time for us to rectify what we have done.
Normal numbers should be somewhere around 20 million or higher.
You're never going to have control of it. If you start it, and only feed it when it's permissible according to the Torah.
Pornography is as addictive as crack cocaine.
You're always going to be happy, including this world and the next. Baruch Adonai Le'olam, Amen.